Tanuj is an architect with a specialization in digital fabrication and advanced architecture with a background in robotics and material research. He's a co-founder of Equals to Design Lab. Great, Tanuj. Happy to have you here. I guess all the other panelists are here. Utsav, are we waiting for somebody else? I think we are already 3 minutes, 4 minutes.
Yes.
So yeah,
yes,
over to you.
I think we definitely have most of our panelists, but yeah, very quickly I'm going to introduce the. So hi Tanuj, I'm going to very quickly introduce the topic of this discussion. We're looking at basically how post-COVID we're looking at the entire urban fabric kind of really changing. It's of course given us a time to sit back, rethink, and think how we are going to how are the cities of the future going to be built, right? If we're looking at designing a city years from now, what are the things that that are now extremely important for us to do? How is space management evolving as a whole? How would we really modify? What are the strategies, of course, that we would have towards that? So I'm going to very quickly bring Tanuj in to introduce our panel. I think we're still waiting for a couple of panelists. If there's any panelists who've already joined in and have not turned their video and audio on, please do so. I really request you to come in. Right now we have Hafisa, we have Vishal. Tanuj, please go ahead with the introductions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the introduction of the topic. So I would like to start away with introducing all the panelists. Firstly, I would like to thank all of you all for taking out the time to have a very solution-based discussion, and we have something that we can take away from this discussion. Firstly, I'd like to introduce architect Hafiz Contractor. Thank you for coming in, sir, and you gave a very insightful first session as well. We have a good takeaways from that. As we all know, your work has been greatly respected and appreciated at both in national and international level with unparalleled achievements. Apart from his flamboyant style, he also has a passion of working with social housing and has a dream that every Indian should have a house. Next we have on the panel is architect Reza Kabul. His profession is started with great achievements both at the national and international level. And his philosophy in creating great design lies in liberating spaces. Thank you for having you, sir, as well. Next we have on the panel is architect Vishal Shah. He's a co-founder of Angan Architects. He's an urban planner and an architect. And he focuses on large-scale urban solutions with a focus on communal and cultural architecture. Really thank you for having you as well. Do we have confirmation on architect Vijay Sri, the last panelist?
I think she must have had problems logging in. We are working on it, is what I hear from the back end. So let's progress. I think Tanuj, why don't you kick off?
Fine. So since Utsav has already mentioned what topic we're going to be talking about today, so the first session and the second session has been a lot more about the realty department and the design and design education phase. This session we will be concentrating more on the urban fabric. So just one quick question so that we understand how do we take this conversation ahead. I would like your response in either a yes or a no. As per your ideas, cities of the future, do you think have they been changed forever post the pandemic situation? I'd like to go to architect Hafiz Contractor to reply to that.
Yes, they will change and they should change.
Okay. Great. Next, architect Reza Kabul. What would your thoughts be on that? So you'll have to, your mic is on mute.
Yeah, it will change because there's going to be it's going to be, this pandemic is surely going to have an impact on the way we are going to stay in future. So, yeah.
And Mr. Vishal Shah.
Yes, I agree. It is going to change, and we'll have to relook into how we look at the entire urban development scenario post-pandemic.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. We're looking at an overwhelming yes cities. The post-pandemic, we're looking at reevaluating almost everything. I think we also have Vijay Sri Pednekar. Tanuj, if you could very quickly introduce her before we start off.
Hi guys, I'm Vijay Sri Pednekar. I'm an architect, urban transport planner, co-founder of the Urban Project. and I have been working in the urban development sector for community sanitation, mobility, and city planning.
Perfect. Thanks so much, and glad you could join. I'm going to just very quickly start out with with an interesting angle, with an interesting question to everyone. Today, people are going out for morning walks and are being discouraged just because we're not able to kind of step out, and a lot of things, a lot of activities, especially amidst the lockdown, but even after, might see a little bit of a caution on our side, to put it softly. So we know this is temporary, but some things will stay. What is the impact on our public spaces? I'd like to start with Reza Kabul. Please, could you come in, sir?
Yeah, sure. So in modern times, our public spaces represent shared values. They are common assets owned, maintained, and used by all members of the society. The outbreak of coronavirus and its immediate impacts, such as social distancing, has raised many questions about the role of public spaces in such times. Since the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 pandemic, countries have been forced to adopt social isolation measures immediately. India's nearly 1.3 billion people have been ordered not to leave their homes. Europe, UK, and even the US have been entered the phase of lockdowns. So home is the only safest place suddenly, and not to work is going to be the need of the hour. Whereas, we just kept on working all the time. Now it's going to be the need of the hour. Don't work and be safe.
Absolutely. All of a sudden, the everything's, the priorities have shifted. All of a sudden, we need to stay home, stay safe. What is the impact on public spaces, Hafiz, sir?
Let us, I always think about, to me, India is the most important place for me, okay? And I'm looking at public spaces for India. Again,
Yes.
looking at population, I'm looking at public spaces, our railway stations, our bus stops, our new housing colonies, thinking about public spaces, how we are going to house 1.3 billion, and this 1.3 billion, out of which 60% is less than 30. So in another 10 years or another 20 years, all of those guys are going to be, they'll be getting married, very, very soon. And in another 10 years, where will our population be? So we have to look at urban spaces for all of that. To me, that urban spaces are very important. And for that, how our urban fabric, that is, how we are going to design our new cities, that is very important. Okay. And the another good part about it, that whatever the urban area that is going to be there in India, in the next 50, 60 years, 75% of that urban area does not exist. So we in India are going to build that much. So we have to change our laws. We have to change how we are going to design our cities. And that is finally going to trickle down to that urban space. We have to think about in a very, very large framework. Then we will come to that urban space. If we take care of the large framework, the urban space will be taken care of.
We are only drawing the grid lines. The zoom in will happen a little in a little while. Vishal, your thoughts on this, sir?
Yes. See, I have a point to put in terms of that. How are we looking at this? In terms of, there are two things that we are looking at. The suppression that we are talking about in terms of either partial lockdown or, as in case of India, a full lockdown, is just a temporary step wherein we are not allowing the use of public spaces. So we'll have to look at how collectivism and individualism is looked upon in terms of design of public spaces in the future. I strongly believe that even post-pandemic, the role of public spaces is going to be very, very, very important, because right now, because we are looking at a contagious disease, that's why social distancing and these norms are coming in kind of a feature. But otherwise also open spaces are very important for the health of communities. So I see the role of open spaces and public spaces strengthening to a great extent. And we'll have to look at it from a very different perspective in terms of improving the health of the cities and the urban areas. So that's point number one. And in continuation to what architect Hafiz was talking about, that our public spaces are not only parks and gardens, they are streets, they are railway stations, and there's all these kind of crowded spaces. So we'll have to look at the design of such spaces also from a very different perspective, considering the densities of the cities that we have already made and are in making. So yes, public spaces are going to see a big turnaround in terms we look at them in terms of design. And I see a lot of role of green and blue open spaces in planning of the new cities and maybe retrofitting of the post-pandemic urban planning scenario.
That's very yes, that covers it. I'm going to come into Vijayashree very quickly. What do you what is your take on how our urban spaces or our public spaces going to kind of shape up in the future? You're on mute. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So I think we have definitely the urban dense cities lack open spaces, lack public spaces. But what we have actually received during this pause, that we have actually started valuing these spaces, because we are not, we are restricted to go there. Now people, more and more people want to go there, and they understand the value of moving out of the house, having those kind of spaces in their city, in their locality. So I think they will definitely, like changing land uses is not a very simple process or an exercise, and we are already in those processes which cannot be overturned or can be changed so easily. But I would say the spaces what we already have, and as the other panelists rightly said, it's just not the parks, but Indian context really works. Like along the footpath side, they have like a small katta where people just gather, and that's a public space for them. So I think this is the time where people are going to claim back their spaces and cherish it and use it nicely. At the same time, designers should be supportive in helping them doing that.
That's a very interesting point mentioned by Vijayashree. As we know, the mobility in the city also plays a very important role it's one of the centerpieces in the urban fabric. So
Yes.
now we have the Indian Railways, which is for the first time shut down in over 100 years, metro, trains, buses also. So now in the future, once post the lockdown, how do we look at the mobility of people in dense Indian cities? Because like we know, our buses, our trains are always jam-packed. So keeping social distancing as a key factor going forward, what are the kind of solutions that we could look into so that in the future, the mobility is not affected, which plays a very important role in the day-to-day scenario?
Sure.
Let's have that question to Reza Kabul, sir, please.
Going forward, I think going forward, the next step is going to be digital. People would be going more for go to meetings, go to your Zoom meetings, and would stop traveling. I think and it's going to be good for the environment as well. It's going to be sustainable because, you travel to one destination, there are 10 consultants coming to that site, and you're going there for, you're traveling for 2 hours, you're burning so much fossil fuel, and then you land up there for half an hour, 45 minutes, and then you get back. So the amount of energy and the, the carbon footprint and everything that is there, we are consuming so much of it just for a half an hour or a 45 minutes meeting. Whereas now we are sitting, I'm sitting across the globe. I'm 13 hours away from you, but then we are speaking and we are having a meeting. So I think that's going to be the next generation, and going forward, that's going to be your...
Definitely. I couldn't agree more. Right, all of a sudden, all of us were like initially a lot of people that even we were doing meetings with were a little hesitant on, and then they required this personal presence. But right now everyone's going online, everyone's meeting online, and a large number of people are happy to do online what they were offline earlier. So yes, that angle will definitely, remote presence, remote collaboration are definitely going to come up. But then again, we do have a lot of sectors where you still need to physically be present. And I'm going to go over to Hafisa with that question that, that is also going to impact a lot of things. Industrial towns, workers, you still need to be present. How do we accommodate that?
I think, I'm thinking that what we are talking about, all this, the way we are going to travel, the way we are going to live, I'm not looking at that way. I feel that there is going to be a complete change in the way we are going to build. Up to now, we are saying that we can't go more than 100 stories. Now you will say that, are you a fool to go more than 100 stories? No, I'm not a fool. But I'm saying that, again, the world's population is 7.8 billion. Very soon it may go to 10 billion. What is going to happen to agricultural land? Look at it, before reinforced concrete came about in some 1910 or something like that. At that time, nobody even thought of, a 16 and 18 and 15 and 12-story building. Everybody was talking about, and it was stone and brick. There'll be a new material. We will be going sky high. Okay, there'll be, because there are going to be bigger hurricanes, bigger, more. So we have to design that, small buildings are no longer the answer. We may move at a lightning speed. We will move in small pods. So what you're talking about, distancing and all that, in the next few years, all that is gone. What you see in all those science fiction movies is the reality. And that is going to be, and unless and until we move to that, I'm looking at that. And to be very frank, there'll be a completely new material. There is talk about carbon concrete, which will take up more weight, more load, and we can go to 200 stories. And all the land will be left for farmland and forest, and that will be going back to like small villages. That is what I think is the future. Okay.
Absolutely. So, I mean, with all of us in our pods, Wi-Fi enabled and with voice assistants going over, and then I think there's so many technological solutions. So what you're saying is where we probably don't. It's problem that essentially has a lot of other solutions which are anyway on the way down to it. So again, a very quick question on that. Do you think all of this starts to go horizontal, right? We're all kind of very centered around one node, right? So it's like how Mumbai has kind of evolved. You have Mumbai as a center, and the rest of, like you said, agricultural space has to come in. Do we see smaller communities coming up a little further away, which are self-sufficient? I mean, is that something that you would also say?
The question is to me?
Yes, sir.
No, I'm thinking about a completely like self-contained, what we call as a
vertical cities.
Town. It will be like that.
Vertical city.
Yeah, it's a building, a city within a building. Then and then only you will leave all your rivers for proper percolation, proper water supply. Everything will be there. We have to leave land in its natural form and live in a very restricted area, because again, what will be the world population, and more so for India? Otherwise, what about our food securities? Every day we use more water. Every day there is a different kind of a shower. We have to adopt the way we used to take bath, with a bucket. How much water you will save? So those kind of things from one side, and another look at it another way. How we are going to live? We have to live in a different way. Yes. Uh, all the theories and all the atmosphere of how we were living before, that has to be taken care of, but in a different way.
That aligns really well with this quote that says that land is a very precious commodity and it cannot be replaced. So
it cannot be manufactured. Land is a precious commodity that cannot be manufactured or cannot be replaced. Everything else, electricity, everything, you can manufacture. Okay, you can grow food. You can't grow food anywhere else but land.
So I would like to get in Architect Vijayashree on this. Based on the discussion, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, what would you think would be the way forward to a sustainable neighborhood? Do you look at better mobility systems? Do you agree with the vertical city and the overall concepts of moving forward to a more vertical city within a building?
Okay, Tanuj. So this is on the similar lines. Actually, when I shared this poster of this event with my friends yesterday, one of my elderly friends, he called me, he messaged me, and he asked me, "Are we going to see all this sci-tech movie city now? People are going to move in the pods. It's going to be so infectious, so polluted outside. So we have to be protected and all that." I told him there's still time for that. There's still time for that. And in that time, I think we should try our best never to reach that point. So if now I'm coming to the context of the cities, dense cities, especially the Indian cities, there are very low percentages of modal shares which are made by the private vehicles like cars, even including two-wheelers. Is for Mumbai is 15, and similar for Delhi and other places also. And at the same time, if you see our poverty lines, our population in the slum, it's a huge number. It's within 40 to 50% people staying in the slums, and there is really a lack of that spending capacity right now because of the slowdown, because of the recession, with even the middle class. So I am not very sure people. Definitely there are like talks going on, and it's obviously common sense that people would prefer for a sanitized car kind of a thing, where they are like less because of obvious reasons of hygiene. But on an actual basis, it would not happen at that extent, I would say. Large chunk of population right now also are dependent on the shared mobility, public transport, and in future, maybe the post-COVID, they are going to rely on that. So we have to see to it that how we really change it, how we really make the infrastructure what we have or what we are proposing right now, which is under construction, etc., etc. That infrastructure we use more efficiently.
Okay, so that's quite a contrarian thought from your end. Architect Vishal Shah, what are your insights on this?
I have to make a different point as far as the mobility is concerned. If we kind of evaluate what sort of trips are being generated, majority or at least half of the trips that are generated are very short trips, for which we are using fossil fuel in terms of car or two-wheelers or other things. So I think I see a big shift that I would want to propose in terms of moving towards non-motorized transportation for at least for these trips. Like if we look back in the history, the earthquake of Mexico kind of brought a huge amount of use of bicycles for commuting post the earthquake. Similarly, if we talk about the oil crisis in the 70s, even Europeans, they moved towards bicycling to a great extent. And as recent as this pandemic, a lot of deliveries and everything happened on bicycle in Wuhan after the break of the pandemic. So I look at micro mobility also as a big factor, and the municipal corporation and governing bodies to kind of promote non-motorized vehicles for a large number of trips that are generated. I would just like to share my own experience. Last August, 1st August, I kind of committed to myself that I will be at least for 100 days in this year, I'll be traveling to my work by using a bicycle. And I was able to finish that target in my regular routine at the end of February. So in a humid climate like Surat, where I'm based, and with the kind of infrastructure that we have, wherein there are no separate lanes for cyclists or so on, still I was able to do this without any major issue. So if this kind of an agenda is pushed forward, I think post-pandemic, in the wake of health and kind of reducing the pollution, a big shift can be brought in terms of mobility, I feel. So I think there's this one area needs to be explored to a great extent.
So you're more towards the active modes of transportation. I would just like to get an architect Hafiz and Reza Kabul. Any thoughts on this, sir?
Look at the vertical city. Everything, there won't be any fossil fuels. Everything will be electrical. How much of we don't have to, yes, going on cycles and all that, I'm looking at it, that will be just, say, a year or 2 years. I'm looking at it, what is going to be 30 years hence. And between the two pods, you move in an electrical train. I'm seeing like, there would hardly be 10% of cars only, and those will be electrical. There'll be, when we are talking about those kind of cities being very, very expensive, yes, they will be expensive to construct, but with new materials, they will not be. Look at it that you construct cities in the old manner. You take so many thousands of square kilometers of farmland, pay them compensation, make roads, put services inside, drainage, water supply, electrification, nothing of that. And finally, to look at it, if you are going to say that, yes, we are going to keep a restriction on number of kids that you are going to have, we are going to keep a restriction on how much the population is going to be. Then the way we are living today, and if you are going to keep on living like that, yes, it is possible. Then, whether you're cycling or whatever it is, finally, you are going to be, the whole world. I've seen a sketch that the whole world and people are falling apart from it. We are multiplying like rabbits. Where are we going to live and what are we going to eat? So I'm looking at that. I'm not looking at today and tomorrow and day after. I'm looking at it, what the world is going to be 30 years, 40 years. And that is what my vision is, okay?
I think what Sir's going to talk about is sustainability, right? Like basically we need to grow sustainably, we need to design sustainably, and those are one of the things that we definitely need to kind of look at. Reza, sir, your very quick thoughts on that.
I am in tandem with Hafiz, sir. You have to go vertical, there's no doubt about it, but vertical with digital. So if I'm living in a smaller town, I do not need to travel to Mumbai, and just like Hafiz sir knows that J+W, the consultants, they're based out of Pune. Every week they travel, at least 10 of them, they come to Mumbai, and they, come and do all the projects in Mumbai. If they are, digitally equipped, they would not have to come to Mumbai. I am looking at it on that aspect, on that angle of this thing. No doubt we have to go vertical, but digitally vertical.
digitally vertical. What are the technologies? What are the technologies that come in on in the near future, right? That would make this digital rise. So we're looking at, of course, connecting everybody. 5G is coming in. A lot of things are coming in. Vijay, if you want to come in on that, on how we actually tackle the digital. Reza sir, again, if you have any comments on that.
Yeah, I mean, we've been moving. I mean, in our generation, I think our generation has seen the maximum, of this thing. Like we had the dialer phones, then we came to the fax, and fax is obsolete today. Now we've got, emails. I don't know what's going to happen next. So we are going to move very fast in the digital aspect as well. So
virtual reality and augmented reality. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Those are things that are changing everything. Yes, please.
So I'd like to highlight there have been a lot of ongoing designs for future cities and future master plans. So what are the broad changes that we could implement in the near future so that the future cities are equipped with the infrastructure for the design sense to attain a pandemic situation? Any thoughts?
Tanuj, can you direct the question to someone, whoever you have?
I'd like Architect Hafiz Contractor to go ahead with this. What are the broad changes that you could implement in the future cities and the master plans so that we would be equipped for a situation like this in the future?
First and foremost, one has to understand that we as architects are mere pawn. If you play chess, the pawn, the smallest guy. The real designers are the bureaucrats, the guys who make laws, the government. The government has to make the laws. They have to be aware that what is going to be happening. And unless and until they feel and they make the laws, then and then it will happen. But we get invitation for designing new cities every second month. So this state is having so many square kilometers by so many square kilometers, and a new city is coming up. You look at it on Google, it's all beautiful farmland, okay? And they are going to pay compensation, and they are good. So the first and foremost thing is the laws. The laws has to be changed. The government has to be made aware where we are leading to. That is where, that's the first thing. You should have some government guys on your panel and they should listen to this. The bunch of architects doing this is going to be of no value. We'll just get a call. Oh, it was nice, it was this, it was that. But where? Nothing. By end of the day, there's nothing happening about it.
I'd like to get an architect, Vijay regarding this. What are your thoughts on the systemic change for the future cities in terms of the laws and the transport and mobility as well?
Sure. I want to put forward, like, if you see you'll go by design principles, and either let it be the 50 years old or the new planning principles. Basically, these processes are longer. Like if you take an example of even DP, it's been made before, and are we going to change the DP based on to accommodate these principles? No. So how are we really going to tackle such problems? And I understand when we talk about city planning, newer cities and all that, we know, like in context of Mumbai, if I'll say, Navi Mumbai was built, but now Navi Mumbai has a density of its own, and hardly any problem of Mumbai is being solved as far as the mobility or other urban issues are concerned. My take on this is, what we need to do, the changes, the systemic changes has to be done in the governance of the city or how the cities are run. Like, for example, like I think the panelists spoke about working from home. It can become a policy. It's a governance thing. Also, we can think of just an example, staggering of the hours, like working hours. And the people who can work digitally from home, they can work. Some of them can be staggered across the time of the day or evenings, because even Mumbai and other few cities are trying to be 24/7. So why not take an advantage of that and think through this? But this is also is not a large infrastructure project as such, but this is more like changing the governance, changing how we function within the existing infrastructure, and definitely there will be some requirement of addition of infrastructure.
Taking up that entire question, right? I want to just very quickly kind of make so, on one side we have Hafiz and Reza kind of telling us that we're looking at a digitally enabled city of the future. On the other side, I think on this panel we also have a lot of developers who have a lot of unsold inventory, who have a lot of inventory that's currently under construction. Can I just get a one sentence or just a one a very quick idea, right? Because I mean, one of the ideas from my side, for example, is that now that we're saying that we're going to go into agricultural land, food production almost has to be brought into the entire, ecosystem itself. So vertical farms, for example, that's an idea. Like take a building and use it now for growing food, because that's going to become sustainability, self-sustainability, something that's essential. Can we just do one round across the entire board with what are the top ideas that developers can use, how developers can use that existing inventory, existing infrastructure under construction or built? Hafiz, sir.
See, the again, existing inventories is for how much time? 6 months, 1 year, all that will go on. But we are talking about future cities. We are talking about what, there are so many cities that are coming up, like the lady just said that New Bombay. New Bombay is with what FSI they are coming up. New areas with new infrastructure should come up with a larger FSI rather than taking up, say, a new city of, say, so many thousand square kilometers. You restrict it to only 1/10 of it. Don't have so many thousand square kilometers, and that 1/10 of it increase the density by so many times and restrict that area. With that, all your transportation, your roads, your infrastructure costs, everything will be minimal. And that will have a better effect on your environment. Just imagine, all sparrows have gone in Mumbai or anywhere else. All butterflies are gone. And they are part and parcel of your life. Okay, we cannot say that human beings are only important. Human beings are there because they are there. If we do not take care of all of them, we won't be there. So let us take care of the nature, natural environment. Okay, trees, rivers. Okay, there is a very nice saying which I don't remember well, but I had read it, that up to the last tree is cut, up to the last river is contaminated, and up to the last fish or something like that is dead, then and then only we will realize that we cannot eat money. So let us look at that.
Okay, I would like to get in quickly Architect Reza as well to give us some insights on this. So you've been also doing a lot of mixed use spaces on proposals. How would you sum up this topic?
Yeah, we should do mixed use cities, no doubt about that. We should confine our cities. We don't expand too much, go vertical. So you do not require too much of transport. And when you have these kind of satellite cities, which are, apart from each other and they're vertical, so you, as Hafiz said, you get a lot of open land for agriculture and other, these things. Like today, if you sit down, you don't have vehicles on the road, you can start seeing the parrots come in, the birds come in. And as Hafiz sir said, it's a part of our life. I mean, we've forgotten. I mean, sometimes you got to tell your kids, what a parrot is. It's only in a book or a picture or something. So it's not this thing. So you require all those things, and you do vertical cities, you do satellite cities, and do the walk to work concept. That should be the need of the hour.
So what about you, Vishal Shah? You had some ideas regarding the existing inventory and mixed use spaces. So
I'm looking at the overall planning process in this week of the pandemic or similar situations. I look at the entire urban planning thing at the intersection of planning, design, and health from this point in time, wherein we will have to look at the densities in a critical manner. There is a debate already that has started that de-densification should start happening and de-urbanization should start happening and all. But I don't see it as a solution. Singapore or South Korea are quite densely populated, and they have been able to tackle the pandemic in a very sophisticated manner in terms of testing, tracking, tracing the whole thing. So they have been able to sustain the densities and kind of control the entire outbreak, even though they are having densities which are much more in number. So I look at densities in case of Indian context as one of the major thing. I align with the thoughts of what architect Hafiz and Reza Kabul are talking about, that we need to keep the cities optimum. We cannot just kind of endlessly keep on spreading the cities. Vertical city or not, that is still debatable, because we have two major kind of urban development that we have in India. One is the larger cities that we are here constantly talking about, like Bombay or Bangalore or Delhi or so on. And at the same time, we have tier 3 cities, we have small towns, which are also a part of the urban development process. So there I see a lot of possibility of strengthening the neighborhoods and the communities. Because there, I don't know, maybe even in a future of 20 or 30 years, I'm not seeing the possibility of vertical cities that here we are talking about. There I see that stronger neighborhoods and more self-sufficient neighborhoods in a contained area should be kind of promoted, wherein you have either new places that are built, or maybe the retrofitting of areas that are done. So the development plan process that architect Vijayashree was kind of pointing out, I feel that it will take a change. It will kind of curve a bit with this post pandemic scenario. We have seen similar things whenever there have been flooding, or where there have been earthquakes in our case, and the bylaws and the development control regulations, which largely affect the urban development, have changed because of that. So I am seeing a major shift. Like for example, in Surat, balconies are not given free of FSI. So people don't make balconies, but they have understood the importance of balconies by now. That they are very, very important as a kind of a gathering space. So maybe now we'll be seeing these kind of, this is just a small example to kind of say that how the bylaws and the development control regulations will kind of shift.
A lot of focus on bylaws, a lot of focus on regulations. I think that is very, very true. I couldn't agree more with you, Vishal. I'll just like to very quickly bring in Vijayashree. Do you have a point on the, Neha, I know you have a lot of audience questions. Let's take those. Vijayashree, one sentence very quickly on the mixed use, on the entire, on that part of it, please.
I think for the mixed use, or at the city level, where we already have the cities, we need to work at the neighborhood level, because in terms of emergency or whatever, I mean, we are the people, or at the local people, we can manage the situation better, right? And I would suggest, we are also working on similar initiatives where we have cooperatives of people of this area. And like similar attempts was done before in Mumbai called ALMs, where the residents of Mumbai were involved in improving that particular area. But I would say that is a little limited, because it's just the residents. If we are talking about urban area mixed uses, we also have to see all kind of stakeholders coming from the residents, shopkeepers, even the hawkers on the road, and has to be a cooperative where we take a collaborative decision, and we are able to change our function, the way we function, as to whatever situation arises. I mean, today is COVID, tomorrow it can be something else. But if you have that communication and cooperation at that local level, and definitely it will be governed by your central agency, that is like the municipal corporation.
All-rounded
But
collaboration.
this is a much a better way to resolve problem at the local level, I feel, and I see this as a
Understood.
future.
Absolutely. Neha, let's get some audience questions in.
Yes, thanks. We don't have much time though, so I'll quickly move on to only 2 audience questions. My first question is particularly to Reza Kabul sir, and this is coming straight from San Francisco, from Khushi Deng. So, sir, you have been designing both in San Francisco and Mumbai. How to differentiate the crossroads? What best practices Mumbai can adapt? Reza sir?
I think you're on mute, sir. So sorry.
Yes.
There are 2 different urban fabrics. There are 2 different social, systems totally. So you cannot be actually implementing what you do in the US into India, because here there's a lot of land and you can design it differently. In India, it is, you've got land is scarce, population is more, so you got to design it differently. So you have to, wherever you design, I mean, we're doing so many other projects in different cities and countries. Everywhere, you have to look at the context and then you got to design.
Absolutely.
You can't be, taking it like a total this thing. You can't just pick up a building from San Francisco and put it into India, or you can't pick up a building from India and put it over here. You have to design with the context, the surroundings, and the sustainability aspects of the, location, what you're working on.
Sure, sir. Thanks. Moving on to my next question, I think probably last one since we don't have time. How execution of site would take place in today's scenario, and is advanced technology even feasible, especially to use for mass low cost housing designs?
Hafiz, probably you could come in on that.
What you said, repeat the question, please.
Yeah. How execution of site would take place in today's scenario, and is advanced technology even feasible to use for mass or low cost housing designs?
I think the question is more along, is the construction process on the ground actually going to get impacted by this? What are the changes that we're seeing over there?
Yes, definitely. The construction is going to get restricted, and there'll be lots and lots of restrictions on how we work, and each and every site will have its own solutions, and I really can't see, I hope that there are some solutions like some kind of drugs and other things that we can take and be a little bit immune. Otherwise, I really don't know with distancing and restrictions how work is going to go on, and whether it is low cost or high cost or anything to work on sites. It is going to be a big question. I don't have any answer to that, to be very frank. We'll have to think of it and start restricting areas. The timelines are going to go more. So many things will happen. So it's not a very easy question to answer. Just sitting over here, each and every site will have to have a different day.
Yeah. So with that, we
Sites
can
where we have slums.
Sorry.
I'm saying, especially when we have sites with slums, existing, and then you got to build for the rehab and you got to build for the sale. Today, there are a lot of people, they build the rehab on the site and they do it. I do not know how it's going to happen, but Mr. Contractor is addressing the same thing.
Absolutely. Construction needs to change out. There are a lot of problems. It's going to be revamped. I think we are all in full agreement of that. What are the solutions that really can go in and revamp the construction process? I think we have a few of those lined up tomorrow. So that's something we definitely love to kind of see tomorrow. Can people monitor their site remotely? Can a lot of construction collaboration happen remotely? Is the actual work that's going to be done, can it be done by a lesser number of people on site? Can we increase the skilling level of each and every person so that we need to have lesser people on site? How the different technologies, for example, how we, the simple process or the simple set of machines that we have right now, how much of automation can you bring into that? How does the entire supply chain work? And how do all the materials kind of come in and then come in? I think there are a lot of solutions which we have curated for tomorrow. So I'd like to invite everyone, of course, to come in tomorrow. And it's been a great panel. I think we're heading just towards the end of it. Neha, you wanted to say something on that?
I just want to end with the thanking note to everyone. So first of all, thank you, Utsav and Tanuj, for moderating the panel so well. I also want to thank all the panelists for such an intriguing discussion. At COPGENI, we are really humbled to have such industry stalwarts coming on our platform and sharing their key thoughts, insights. We have got a huge appreciation from Pan India for running and organizing this knowledge series. I also want to thank all our partners for their support in organizing this amazing series. And to all the audience, thanks for being there for such a long time with us. I am really excited for tomorrow as well. It's a big day. We are going to present the solutions to the problem which we are discussing all this while. And in a very, very unique format for the first time in India that we have already been doing in Silicon Valley from quite a long time. So do join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. IST to know more about the technology solutions that can be adopted to solve AEC industry challenges in the time of crisis. With that, thank you all once again. That's it from my side. Till then, take care. Take good care of yourself and your family. Stay at home. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you.